Hello, reporter room investigators. Great to see you. Come on in, come on in. I'm happy that you're here. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects and show you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed, please do join the reporter room family. It's free and it helps us out a lot. So join our family. We would love to have you. We have so much stuff to dig into today on the Sebastian Rogers case. We are going to be talking about a variety of things, including the private investigator updates, narcissism, and what role this may have played in this trauma bonding, how it relates to Katie Proudfoot, and maybe narcissism and trauma bonding is something that you personally can relate to. We're going to talk about the new spokesperson, Tony Matheson, the private investigator updates. So are you watching closely? Everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion, and opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone. Please help me welcome all of our channel members, our subscribers, and our mods, and my deepest thanks to each and every one of you. I'm so glad that you're here. So come on in, you guys. So we're going to talk about how narcissism is impacting the case in just a moment, but I want to talk about this new private investigator situation. We have, there's a lot. Okay, let's go.
You wake up every day angry.
Sebastian, he is...
like to say to whoever has my children that they please.
We just hoping that he...
functioning autistic.
happy and alive.
Wherever you are, just know that we are not going to stop.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
That's my, okay, so this picture has been making the rounds big time. We're not going to dive into it too much. I just do want to say that it has not been debunked by law enforcement. So it was taken here at the Grand Mountain, and we're going to be talking about Sebastian. So let's dig into this. I have so much impact. I have, besides this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packages for you guys. Let me say hello to chat. Come on in and tell me where you're from. We have a new channel member. Welcome, Green Eyes Sparkle. Thank you so much for being a channel member and becoming part of the Reporter Room family. If you would like to join the Reporter Room family, you guys can just hit the join button. But subscribing also makes you part of our family as well. So consider subscribing also. Hey, Annie. Annie says, thank you, Jessica, for all you do. Thank you too, Annie. Hey, Anjaz. This is our head mod, Njaz, along with Six Sense Amelia and Jane. And she's welcoming friends to Reporter Room. Sarah says, Chris and Katie are both. So I want to be really careful. They have not been charged with anything. So let's dial it back a little bit, and rather than, because they haven't even been indicted for anything. But we are going to discuss them because I do think it's worth talking about. But let's not like flat out say that they're this or that they're that. Let's just come on in. Let's discuss it together. But I'm really glad you're here, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate your input and your opinions, you guys. Pepper is from Martinsville. Yeah, tell me where you're from. Welcome, Pepper. If you see people with the check marks, those are our channel members. The wrenches are the mods, if you see a wrench. And Sarah says, look at the bottom of the post, wet when without the kid in the picture. The picture with the kid is about a foot from the curb without the kid in it. The post is right up against the post. Well, I have not seen, I think this post is really interesting. I do believe that it is Sebastian. I wouldn't have put it out if I didn't think that it was. I also think it's extremely interesting that law enforcement has not come out to debunk this photo. And I think that if it was something that they wanted to debunk, they could have done this, because It's changing the way that the search is going, and we're going to talk about that for Sebastian. So thanks for that. And this is another one of our mods, brother Mike, and he also is a moderator along with Njaz in our Facebook group, which is really great. Hey, Gina, glad you're here. Glad you made it. So come on in, you guys. We're going to keep it classy in the chat. I want to, Kimmy says, hey there, I'm in the library. Sounds good. Yeah, everything's great, Kimmy. Thanks for that. Hey, Lolo. Hi, Frank. Hi, Harley and Flo. All right, well, come on in, you guys. There's Stars here. Tell me where you're from. Mama Bear's here. Renee, oh my gosh, we're going to have such a good chat, you guys. All right, well, let's go ahead, and I want to welcome Kelly Porter, who is also a new channel member. Yay! So we have Kelly Porter, also a new channel member today. So how nice is that? We have 2 new channel members. Welcome to the family. So glad you're here. Leslie's here. Jesus Loves Me is here. So Frank says, oh, is this about the boy? They think this is about Sebastian. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and start digging into this, because I have so much to unpack on this, you guys. I don't know. I hope I can get through everything that I have to share with you, because it's a lot. But we're going to, I do want to talk about the fact that we're going to talk about narcissism and how it's impacting this case in just a moment. But let's dig into the private investigator situation. And I want to talk about a new theory also. We're also going to discuss Summer Wells in a few minutes. So Seth's lead private investigator, that's Heather, she announced she was stepping back from the case. So Heather and Tracy are no longer on the Sebastian Rogers case, but Chloe still is. She's the one that was on the Web Sleuth live stream talking before Chris Proudfoot came on. And it sounds like Seth maybe let go one of his private investigators in exchange for having a spokesperson, Tony Matheson, who also represents the family of Caleb Harris. And if you'd like me to cover missing Caleb, let me know. So I just want to point out that Madeline McCann's parents, Kate and Jerry, also brought in a spokesperson named Clarence Mitchell. So I just, I think it is good to try to dial everything back and take it down. So I want to talk about this new theory. So it's possible that Sebastian is in North Carolina because Katie has relatives there. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying Katie sent Sebastian to North Carolina. And we're going to talk about narcissism and how this may have affected this case and why Sebastian disappeared in just a second. I also want to talk about it in terms of how it may be affecting you and trauma bonding. So it's possible that she does have relatives. So I'm not saying Katie sent him to North Carolina or anything like that to hide him. I don't think she would have done that. I think if she had done that, she would have let law enforcement know. I think she would have produced him by now. I don't think she would have filed a false police report just to hide him. But I'm wondering if one of Katie's relatives, and we know she does have relatives in North Carolina, couldn't have been in contact with Sebastian behind Katie's back. Now, so Katie's mother is purported to be, let me grab this image, this woman, let me pull her up. Oh, it didn't come through. Oh, man. That's too bad. I wanted to show her. Okay, so, all right, so it didn't come through. I don't know why, but that's okay. So Katie's mom is purported to be a registered SO, and I'm wondering what did happen to Katie. We've also been hearing reports that Katie got involved with Seth Rogers when she was underage, and he was 21 and she was reportedly 15 years old. Now she had Sebastian, and the age of consent varies from state to state. So I'm not saying anything illegal happened or anything like that, but it is young and there is a big age difference there. But I'm just wondering if it's possible that one of Katie's relatives, being that she does have this registered SO mother allegedly in the family, if one of them could have been in contact with Sebastian. Because I don't think even if they took him out to North Carolina to this grandfather mountain, I don't think they would have expected, maybe to be picked up by somebody. I don't know if they would have known like how big this case is. So I'm just wondering, because Sebastian had tried to report something to his teacher, we don't know what, that brought CPS into the case. I'm just wondering if and Chris Proudfoot says, this is his story, I don't know if this is true or not, says that the CPS worker told Sebastian that he would get in trouble if he made false claims. And I'm just wondering if Sebastian felt like he had no one to turn to. And maybe there was family online that was reaching out to him. And is this how he ended up in North Carolina, if this photo is him? So we know from Katie's divorce documents that her relationship with Seth really doesn't sound like it was healthy at all. She was very young when she met him. There was a big age gap. She was pregnant with Sebastian as an adult, but still, like, I think she was 18 or 19 when she had him. So she was a young mom. We know that she was underage and he was an adult when they first started their relationship. Now, again, I'm not saying anything untoward went on. They could have just been dating until she was 18 or 19. But I just wonder if she is having relationships with people. And if you read the divorce documents, it doesn't sound like it was a good relationship between the two of them. It doesn't sound like it was a healthy relationship. So I'm just wondering if this type of relationship and the type of men that Katie chooses just don't treat her very nicely. And if she's, Chris Proudfoot has come on to multiple YouTubers, and he's even sought out women on Facebook to bully and intimidate, in my opinion. This is my opinion. And it's not a good look. It's just not a good look. But let's take a look at, let me grab this really quick. Let me take this down. Just want to grab narcissists and trauma bonding. Let's talk about this together. Make sure you guys can see what I can see. Okay. So narcissists use trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement to help get you addicted to them. This is according to survivors of DV. So maybe this is something that's happened to you in your life. So I just want to share with you a little bit about it so we can understand the cycle of how it works and how it may have impacted Katie, and maybe consider looking at her in a different light than we have before. So the big question people always ask is, why didn't he or she leave? And I get why people want to ask that, but it doesn't always make it that easy. And I know with Katie, if the stuff that was going on with Sebastian and Chris Proudfoot is true, and I'm not saying it is, but if some of the things that we've heard from the neighbors is true, then why didn't she just leave? Well, it's a very hard bond to break, and the components necessary form a power differential, and followed by highs and very, very strong bonding, and then big lows. So it's a bond that develops when two people undergo intense, risky emotional experiences together. And in the context of an A relationship, I'm watching my words, this bond is strengthened due to heightened intimacy and danger. It's very similar to Stockholm syndrome, as both the source of the terror and the comfort can be the same person. And then you're just trying to survive in this tumultuous relationship. And as a result, a lot of DV victims feel a misplaced, unshakable sense of loyalty and devotion to the perpetrators. I'm watching my words, which to somebody who has not gone through this may appear nonsensical. It just looks bizarre. But if you have gone through something like this, then you can probably relate to this. Maybe you had narcissistic trauma bonding with a partner, a spouse or a boyfriend. Maybe you had it with a parent. Maybe you had it with a sibling. Maybe you had it with a coworker. But Dr. Patrick writes in the betrayal of the bond, trauma bonding, that it's especially fierce in situations where there are repetitive cycles. And we hear all the time how, the cycles of DV, the cycles of A, and I'm watching my words. So I think that, in light of what we know about Katie's mother, if this is true, it's alleged, but if this is true and she is a RSO registered, then is Katie just simply perpetuating this cycle into her adult life? So he writes, those standing see the obvious, and these relationships about how insanely loyal or attached they share exploitation, fear, and danger. They also have elements of kindness, nobility, and righteousness. These are the people who stay involved or wish to stay involved with people who betray them. Emotional pain, severe consequences, and even the prospect of being done away with does not stop someone who is trauma bonded from being caring or committed. Clinicians call this trauma bonding. And this means that the victims have a certain dysfunctional attachment that occurs in the presence of danger, in the presence of shame. And we've seen this shaming tactic being used on social media by one of the adults of the three adults, where he's gone in and tried to shame, mostly aimed at female content creators or females on Facebook. So I do wonder if this is what was going on what's going on in the public where everyone can see it. It does make me wonder what is going on behind closed doors. What do you guys think? So I do want to talk about this a little bit and just say that, maybe this is something that, has happened. So there can be, how this works is it's intermittent reinforcement in the context of psychological A. It's a pattern of cruel, callous treatment mixed in with random bursts of affection. So the perpetrator hands out rewards such as affection, a compliment, gifts sporadically and unpredictably throughout the A cycle. And think of a DV husband who gives his wife flowers or kind words, or an abusive parent who does this to her child after a particularly harsh silent treatment. So the intermittent reinforcement causes the person to seek the person's approval. And I do feel like I see this with Katie. I do feel like I see her seeking his approval, his okay. And I'm just wondering if this stems from what happened to her in her own childhood, and if this is something that was then perpetuated into her relationship with Sebastian. So seeking out the approval is like looking for breadcrumbs, because you get these occasional positive behaviors in the hopes that this person will change and return to what was the honeymoon phase of the relationship. But we all know that that's not how it goes. It is a cycle. And victims who are unwittingly hooked into playing this game for a potential win, when the truth is it's just a massive loss for the victim. So a manipulation tactic can also cause us to perceive rare positive behaviors as in an amplified manner. So you see rare positive, and if you've been through this, then you can understand, what Dr. Carver is talking about here, because it causes you to see just little positive things being, huge. They're amplified. And he talks about this in terms of love and Stockholm syndrome. He says, in threatening and survival situations, we look for a hope, a small sign that the situation may improve. When the controller shows the victim some small kindness, even though it's the A that benefits as well, the victim interprets that small kindness as a positive trait in the relationship with this perpetrator, a birthday card, a gift, a special treatment. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this something that is playing a role in this thing? Let me grab the next one, because I do think that this is possibly what is going on here. All right. So let's go through this one. Okay. So a trauma bond. I'm sorry. I have a sore throat. I'm just getting over a chest infection. We talked about what it was. So we're not going to go into that again, but I do want to talk about the signs of someone being trauma bonded. And this is important for each of us to consider, especially people who are attracted to true crime. And I've shared this with you before. I think a certain percentage of people that watch true crime, not all, but a percentage, are attracted to it because of trauma bonding. It allows you to watch perpetrators from a safe distance, in your own living room, away from, behind the TV screen. But it is some kind of a trauma bonding, a way to relive it, and to process it without subjecting yourself to it. And again, if you've been in a relationship with a narcissistic person, you know what I'm talking about here. So let's talk about the signs, and let's see, have we seen any signs like this in the Sebastian Rogers case? Are you watching closely? So you realize you don't like the person. For example, you might feel angry toward them, and it's unsafe to express your feelings. You may have a physical reaction being near the person or having them touch you. So that's a sign of trauma bonding. The other one is your relationship is bound with guilt and shame. Remember, people that are involved with DB, the perpetrators, leverage fear, obligation, and guilt. If you try to speak up for what you need, you're told that you're being selfish and demanding. And think about this and how it, what we heard from Nina Gomez, right? In her relationship with Chris Proudfoot, when, she just wanted to, continue her pregnancy and he didn't want to. The withholding of the finances, the psychological, she had to go with her parents and she just did it on her own. But and we also see that he, wasn't coming home in February. Was this withholding also going on in the relationship with Katie? So I just want to put Katie in a little bit of a different light and maybe try to understand where she's coming from and how did we get here with Sebastian? Is she just perpetuating with Sebastian the cycle that she lived through in her own childhood with her mother? And maybe other people in her life too. So the next one is, you're not sure if you leave, that the longer that you're with the person, the more this behavior becomes normal. So it doesn't feel um, scary to you. In fact, it's worse because it feels like this is something that you're familiar with. This feels like home to you, right? You're loved, bombed, and then devalued. There may be like this extreme push pull. You go from somebody who can do no wrong to somebody who can do no right. And I do feel like when I've seen and heard, about how uh, Chris Proudfoot was allegedly, this is alleged, was treating Sebastian, and also just how he went onto Web Sleuths Live and talked to Trish on Web Sleuths Live. He went on to Emma's show on Crime Stories Obsessed and how he talked to her. I do feel like there's this devaluing of women in general. And I'm just wondering if Katie relates to that on some level because of something that happened to her in her childhood. And if this perpetuated down into Sebastian being devalued. And when Sebastian did try to say something to his school, then CPS did come out. Now, I don't know if CPS said this to him or not, but if they did, this is horrible, to tell him that if he, files false complaints, he'll get in trouble. You should never tell that to a child. So you're hyper vigilant in these relationships. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. Can you guys, does anybody out there relate to this? Is this something that you've been through in your own life with a narcissistic person? So why do people stay? Why do they stay? Well, first of all, it feels normal, right? It feels like home. You don't have the red flags that other people have because this is something that you've done before. So you just feel like, oh, well, this is just another person to do this to me. It feels familiar. It feels like home. It feels like family. So you not only don't get the red flags, but it feels more comfortable. So one reason it can be so hard for people to leave, it involves this intermittent reinforcement that I talked about a few minutes ago, this cycle of being loved and being saved. And the brain latches onto that positive experience of relief and safety, and it's aimed to achieve it again during the next cycle of DV, and we know the next cycle always happens. So it's almost like gambling. They've compared it, researchers have compared it to slot machines and other forms of gambling, that this psychological concept to make people spend money. It's because every so often when you pull that lever, you do win a little pittance, not as much as you lose, but you do win. So I think that that's really helpful. We're going to be talking about how the search should continue on. Let me grab that for you. And then, but I want to also check in with chat too. And let me know if you can relate to this. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Summer Wells today too. So we're going to talk about where should the search go next. So let me just check in with chat really quick. I'll pop this up. So I do believe that this photo is Sebastian. I think that law enforcement would have told us. If you look here, this is Grandfather Mountain. And if you look, can you see the face? If you look at the what's pointing up to the sky, you can see a nose, a mouth, and a beard. And that's why it's called Grandfather Mountain. So let me check in with chat, and then we're going to dive into. And the reason I think this photo is real is because of something that Heather posted when she posted a really nice thing that she wasn't going to be continuing on as the private investigator. But this part really popped out. And somebody posted this on Twitter. I wish I'd written down who, but she says, as a private investigator, we can do a lot to help the case along, but we do not have the ability to get warrants. And that's what's needed to gather the evidence necessary to find Sebastian. So I think this statement is really telling. The fact that we need a warrant to find Sebastian makes me wonder. And the fact that she's the private investigator, that she knows this, makes me wonder all the more, makes me think all the more that this is Sebastian. I could be wrong, but let me check in with chat. Let's see where you guys are at with this. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Just watch your words in chat, guys. Let's keep it as PG as we can. All right. Thank you so much, Brother Mike, for your super thanks. I really appreciate it. Those of you that have been with the channel know I'm saving up for a new computer, and I'm about ready to place that order. So let's not use the A word, just use the letters DV. I'm a journalist. I was verified on Twitter before they started selling the blue check marks as a journalist, so I did have to prove it. And when I got my verification, let me just show. I'm also verified on Twitter and on Spoutable, so that I can see that's my verification. Why I was verified, I know people can buy them now. I'm also verified on Facebook. So this is the new spokesperson, Tony. Picture of Sebastian. I do think it's him. Let me know what you think if you think it is not him. I just think the stance, the hair, the cowlick, even the nose shape to me does look like him. The similar shoes, it looks like the kind of shoes he liked. If it's not him, boy, it sure is a ringer. Gina, hi, says very true. I see obvious, been through trauma when I was a kid, wound up with, yeah, and it's your picker is off, right? Your picker is off. Yeah, so we have some people in here who have children that are autistic, and April was Autistic Awareness Month. I think every month could be Autistic Awareness, because I don't think a lot of people, yeah, salient treatment. Good, that's right, Pam. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this has upset a lot of parents. It really has. Annie says, I have a 12-year-old autistic granddaughter, nonverbal. Yeah, so a lot of you guys can relate to this case. And imagine being special needs and then having a parent who is in this cycle, this DV cycle, and how that would impact you if the parents doesn't have the inner strength to leave or doesn't even realize that she needs to leave. Hey, Cirrus. Hey, CC True Crime. Yeah, he's autistic. Colleen says no one wanted this child. I'm wondering if he did feel like that, Colleen, if he just really, I don't know if that's true or not true, but I certainly think that, I feel like Katie was being asked to make a choice, which is why I titled this one The Choice, because I think she was being asked to make a choice. I think that's why Chris Proudfoot, this is my opinion, but I do think that's why Chris Proudfoot didn't want to come home for the month of February. It was his way of withholding his affection. We don't know if he was withholding finances from Katie, but I do feel like she was in this really tough situation where she was being asked to make this choice. And I'm just wondering if Sebastian knew it too. Gina says, I have a daughter that's 34, has 2 children. She's autistic, and not the worst case, she is married. I'm so glad that she's married and living her best life. Hey, Paradigm Blaster. The type of lies and amount of lies told by Katie Proudfoot in court docs, the DV court docs tell me that Katie Proudfoot probably also, well, we don't know. That's possible, but we don't know that if they were truth or lies. We don't know because we weren't there. So I just want to, be careful of that. Mama Bear says she knows what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. Appreciate the positivity. CC True Crime. A says, without knowing him personally, I personally cannot confirm whether there's a trauma bond. And coming from a horrible childhood, I have seen this in my professional and personal life as a support worker. Wow. And Annie says, my husband is also high-functioning autistic. He worked for the state for 27 years. That's awesome. Lenny says, can anyone answer, with all of these people looking for Sebastian, is there no one using drones to search? I haven't found any drone search footage. Well, we're going to talk about the search in just a second. We're also going to talk about Summer Wells and too, and the new spokesperson. Claudia says, I know exactly what you're talking about. Got so much positivity and love in the chat, you guys. If you want to be part of a really nice community, this is in a really nice family, this is your place. Subscribe, come on up and join me in the top chat. Sierra says, please hit the like button and subscribe. Yeah. We have such a nice community, and we have a Facebook group. Also, if you type in Sebastian Rogers and Reporter Room, you should come up with ours. Linda says, Chris Proudfoot wanted Nina to end the pregnancy now he wants Faith. That's exactly right. Thank you so much, Njaz. Watch your words in the chat, guys. Don't use the A word, use DV instead. Because then I can't share your comment, and I really want to. Lenny says, thank you all. I haven't heard much about drone use. I was unaware. We're going to talk about the search in just a second. What should happen next? Rebecca says, could I say something? I have burned out my energy on this case, praying for them, and I come to the conclusion, father, stepfather, and mother cost too much innocent Sebastian. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. And then to find out things, these are all just human beings being human, doing the best they can. And we don't know what anybody else has gone through of why, again, this is all cyclical, right? These are cycles. So we don't know what happened to anybody else in their childhood. But the fact that she has this mother, that Katie has this mother, that's a registered SO, that to me speaks volumes, right? It speaks volumes of what, may have happened to Katie in her childhood and this cycle, and maybe for somebody else being with somebody that had been had been married so many times, and that had these histories with other people, was withholding and being controlling in his behavior, which is what I believe what was happening in February. We definitely heard from Nina Gomez's point of view that this was happening. Maybe this just felt like it was too much for Katie. And she's just reliving her childhood with this trauma bonding through her relationship with Seth, through her relationship with Chris. And we don't know what those guys have been through either. Linda says the system failed Sebastian. Yeah, I think if it's true that the CPS worker told Sebastian that he would get in trouble for filing a false report, if that's true, then you're right. They have definitely failed him. I spelled my name Jamie, which means je t'aime? Is that what you're saying? My name is Jamie. Okay, I love you. I love. All right, thanks for that. Men, yeah, exactly. Carol says she had a boyfriend like this. Yeah, I mean, you guys can probably relate to some of this. Pam says it's just reality, kind of like paying the bills. No point in talking about it. It is what it is. One can learn not to talk about things, even significant things. Carol says it makes you feel like a 10 and then a 0. Yeah, exactly. You're given all this love bombing and told that you're valuable and you're important. And in the honeymoon phase, and we know this is a cycle, this is how it goes during the honeymoon phase. And then we go to the devaluing phase, right? We go to the devaluing phase. So let's talk about that cycle. Let me grab this for you. Because maybe this can help somebody heal. Let me take this down. All right, grab this one instead. I want to talk about the cycle because maybe this can help somebody else out there. Maybe it can help us to understand Katie and Seth and Chris. What did they go through? So these are these are the 4 stages. It is a cycle. That you have the calm, right? You have the tension, and then there's the incident, and then there's the calm, and then there's the reconciliation, and it just goes around and around in those in a circle. Now, not everything happens. I talked about coercive control in another live stream. This is a tactic where the DV partner tries to convince them to act in ways that suits the DV partner, right? And a lot of people talked about coercion when they saw the hand-holding interview where Chris and Katie are holding hands like that. Ridiculing, this involves making fun of the partner. Harassment, treating the partner like a child. And again, I've heard a lot of you guys commenting the way that Katie looks to Chris, like he's going to handle everything and answer everything. So I'm wondering if they, are in this phase of going through that. This is just my opinion. Keeping the partner from friends, family, or employment is a way to isolate. The silent treatment. And I'm wondering if this is why he didn't come home for the month of February. We know from Nina Gomez that he employed this tactic with her to try to get her to do what he wanted. Yelling or swearing. So there can be all kinds of things. So here's some things that you may not notice, especially if you're trauma bonded, especially if you grew up in a situation like this and you don't have the red flags that other people have. They may give you a mean or derogatory nickname and pass it off as endearing. An example would be like Broomhilda, where they're calling you a witch. Your partner may use accusatory or finite statements such as, "You never do this for me. You're always late for everything." They call you names and then act like it's joking. They're just teasing you, right? You're being too sensitive. I'm just kidding. Your partner patronizes you by saying such as, "Oh, you tried, but you're not capable of doing that." They're dismissive of your feelings and other important things. The body language can typically give this away, such as they may not say that they're dismissing your feelings, but they may roll their eyes when you're talking to them or shake their head, give you, look, they can use sarcasm to disguise the insults. They will say things like, you take everything so seriously, right? This tries to frame it again as I'm just kidding. You're overly sensitive. You're too sensitive. Are you? I don't think so. If it makes you uncomfortable, then it makes you uncomfortable. Period. They may look at you and make subtle but rude comments about the way you look. Maybe comment about your weight. Maybe make a comment about something like that. They take credit for your accomplishments. This is one that a lot of people miss, and that you might have a very accomplished woman, and her partner's literally acting like he's the sole provider for the whole family. I put the roof over your head. I've done this. When she's working too, or maybe she's at home taking care of the kids. Boy, that's a 24/7 job, right? That's not easy. No vacation days, no days off. Your partner puts you down for things like you like, or they put down your hobby. So how do you get out of this? The first thing is just to acknowledge that this is happening to you, and then realize that these are not isolated incidents, but they are repetitive patterns that are occurring. It's a cycle, seeing that cycle and understanding that reconciliation, that calm period where they're bringing you flowers and love bombing you, that this is not the person's most authentic self. This is that person being the most manipulative. So while it can be difficult to change your thinking, and changing is hard, but it can be done, it's key to recognize that by participating in the stages, you're allowing the person, the perpetrator, to get control over you. So I hope this, helps someone else out there. So let me go ahead and dive into where the search needs to continue, how does the search need to progress? We're also going to talk about Summer Wells, but I do want to talk about searching. Okay, so let me just go back out for a second. This is from a private investigator. Now, he's not hired by, but Steve Fisher's shared some really insightful, in my opinion, information on this. So he says, why do people go undetected, even by trained search and rescue teams? So he selected a 1 square mile near Sebastian's home, which he believes to be the highest probability for locating Sebastian. So this is in the event that this picture in North Carolina is not Sebastian. I think that it is, but I don't think we should stop the other searches either. So typically the search planner at the command post would assign a hasty team to quickly survey the area. For a trained hasty team, this should take about 3.5 hours to clear 1 square mile. But the probability of detection is only 30 to 40%. So what he's saying here is that it's very likely that while they were doing a hasty search, trying to clear the area, that there's a 60 to 70% chance they could have missed Sebastian if he did run away, or if something worse happened. Assuming days or weeks have passed, the entire search zone has been hastily searched, not just 1 square mile. Search planners might decide that a grid search is necessary. This involves, and somebody asked just a few minutes ago about drones, a team of trained searchers walking in lines with predetermined spacing, and they do not take the path of least resistance. Rather, they're tackling the challenging terrain, such as going through the thorn bushes and the thick brush. So he's recommending that they just start in this 1 square mile around where the house is, and then expand out from there. So really just walking, doing that grid search, and then expanding out to see if they could find into this wider area to see if he is there. And that is if he is not this person pictured in North Carolina. So this is getting picked up by the mainstream media, which I think is great. Let me grab this one for you guys. Okay. And I just want to say, I know there's been a lot of speculation as to who the blind woman is. She may not have anything to do with the case. I just think it's worth putting it out there. She might, but she could have just been walking by and been caught in the image too. But let me check in with chat really quick. Claudia says, me too. I'm happy I was able to run away from him. Yeah. Leaving is hard, but it's the healthiest, best thing to do. Halfway says he may have blackmailed her about her background. Yeah. Or just shamed her. Just shamed her. You can, shaming, right? Shamed her. Bernadette says maybe the complaint was manipulated by Chris to look false. Some will do anything to keep a clean record. It is sad. Leslie says, I was married to a narcissist. He tore down my self-esteem. I'm still trying to get back to how I was before him. Yeah, it takes time to heal, and it takes a lot of time to break these patterns. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and being a part of the Reporter Room family. We have such a nice group here. Allison says, Chris Proudfoot has done something to Katie. Do we need proof of life on her? I think she's fine. I think TBI, they're checking in with her daily. I think she's okay. I think she's safe. Does anyone know what has come about with the picture of Sebastian in North Carolina? Well, let's dig into that. Such a good question. So first of all, law enforcement, I put it up there. I sent it to TBI before I posted it on my YouTube channel, and then waited a couple of hours to see, is somebody going to come out and say this is not him? And that did not happen. And I thought it was him because of his stance, with his arm, the way he's standing, his shoulders. I feel like the cowlick in the front with his hair and his glasses look very similar. And even the sneakers looks like a type of sneakers that he liked, right? It does look like this was a type of sneaker that he liked. So I think we should be careful about the blonde woman, though, because for all we know, she could be with him, but she could have also just been walking by when somebody was trying to just get that picture. So let's talk about this. All right. So my source on this is the Daily Mail. So a possible picture of the missing autistic teen, Sebastian Rogers, has been circling on social media more than 2 months after he went missing. The picture was reportedly taken at the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. The snapshot was taken by a woman at the rest stop. Very strongly resembles the missing teen who went missing from his Hendersonville home on February 26th, barefoot with just a flashlight. The woman later turned in the picture to the TBI, and her friend posted the picture online. And that's where we all got it. So Sebastian's believed to have left his house with a flashlight in the wee hours of the morning of February 26th. He was reported missing by Chris and Katie Proudfoot at around 6:30 a.m. The State Bureau of Investigation released the endangered child alert for him. Journalist Nick Bears has been closely tracking this. You guys probably know who he is from Facebook. In a recent Facebook Live, he addressed the mysterious photo, saying that he finds it interesting that, 7 days after the rest stop photo was released, that investigators have not ruled out the possibility that it's Sebastian. And now here we are a week and a few days after, and they have not come out and said this is not Sebastian. In fact, Seth says he thinks it is him. So I'm gonna skip over the Cajun Navy just because that whole brouhaha. But if you look at this picture of him with the sneakers that he likes, and people have said his hair does look darker. It does. It could be the shadows. It could be the shadows in the shot. It could be just that his hair is dirtier. It just could be the lighting from the shot. But if you look at the sneakers and the body stance and the body position, the glasses, and even the nose, I think it does look a lot like him. Very, very similar body stance, the shoulders, and then the same type of shoes that he would have liked. And one thing we do know about people that are autistic is they don't like change. They like the routines. They like the comfort of the routines. So I think it's interesting because this is a UK paper, so this case is now international. So officials have still not been able to determine if one of the light sources was Sebastian. They do believe that sources suggest another person was outside the house that night. Okay, so that's that eerie footage from the back of the house. Now, this has been debunked as being lights that were actually stationary on the house. And because the video that we saw was somebody filming someone else's video using their camera to actually film their footage, that was the movement that we saw in that. So, but I don't know. What do you guys think about the lights? Seth Rogers insists that his son would not have gotten to a stranger's car unless he knew them. So that brings me back to the theory of Katie and Chris Proudfoot both think that Sebastian did not have access to online, but we know at Seth's house he may have. Was there family from Katie that maybe Katie is estranged from reaching out to Sebastian online? And maybe this wasn't a stranger's vehicle? Whenever you're looking for somebody like this, you start from the inside and you work your way out. So you start with the last person to see them, and then the parents that are involved, and then you work your way out. So is this a case where he did know them and had been interacting with them online? Seth also says that Sebastian was not the type to wander off due to an experience as a young with the red fire ants. We've talked about that before, that he would never go far without his shoes. So the police continue to investigate the disappearance, working every new piece of evidence they receive with no concrete leads. So what I think is really the most interesting thing about this article is the fact that, TBI didn't come out and say this photo isn't real. And when I was reading through Heather's statement that I shared with you a moment ago, let me pull that back up real quick. This is PI Heather. She also makes it sound, this is why I highlighted this part, as a private investigator, we can do a lot to help the case along, but we do not have the ability to get the warrants. And that is what is necessary to gather the evidence necessary to find Sebastian. So you would only need warrants if you thought you wouldn't need warrants to do a grid search, right? You would need warrants if you thought that somebody had him in North Carolina. What do you guys think? All right, we're going to talk about Summer Wells. So I have some information on that case for you. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more about Holland Snap and Layla Santello. But I want to dig more into Sebastian and this trauma bond for just a second. But let me check in with chat really quick. So I haven't checked in with you guys. All right. So Linda, hey Linda. Linda said, law enforcement got the video from the Welcome Center. Seth drove there and wasn't allowed to view it. Yeah, you're right, Linda. So yeah, Seth went on to, I think it was Dave Pascal's show, and said that with his spokesperson, and said that, yeah, he drove straight to North Carolina. Because Seth believes this is Sebastian. So I think, I think that's very telling also. The only one that said he didn't think that it was Sebastian, but then he took the comment down, was Chris Proudfoot. So I think if Katie and Seth both believe that this could be Sebastian, then, I think that needs to be followed up on. So when he got down there, he wasn't allowed to view the video. That would drive me crazy. But if they have an active investigation and they are trying to track down, they don't want any kind of vigilante type of behavior going on. And when you're a parent of a missing child, not everybody in this case, but certainly Seth, then your gut instinct is going to be to go, get the license plate, find out where they live, and go knock on the door, right? Katie said, I just searches for the missing children. Yeah. Let me go back down. It's easy to make someone's hair darker. I agree. It could be dirty. It could be just the lighting in this photo, that he's in the shade and it just looks darker. It could be that his hair was dyed. and that they took him here to this kind of obscure Grandfather Mountain location because they didn't dream anybody was going to spot him. So I think that's interesting. Ellie Mae says she thinks it does look like him. Elmer, hey, Elmer says, if it's not Sebastian, it's his doppelganger for sure. I agree. I mean, I think when I saw the photo, the first thing I did was email it to myself and upload it and start looking at it because I just wanted to know. The first thing I did was send it to TBI, but I also had started enhancing it, and I sent them my enhanced photos, which were just at that point just zooming in on him. Because I did think it was him. And I'm like, if this isn't him, he has a twin. Because this to me does look like him. I just really felt like it was him. Kimberly says, thank you for a warm welcome. I have been listening for a while. I like to listen and read chat before I decide. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the Reporter Room family. And Jamie says, likes the comfort of routine. Leslie says, they don't like change. I have an autistic grandson. So yeah, I think picking those same shoes would be something you would do. And I do think the shoes in this photo really look a lot like shoes that Sebastian would have chosen. They were similar to what he wore. Hey, Jane. Jane says, how did Katie pass her lie detector test when she says she heard a loud thump in his room if he could have been in the garage or already missing? Well, we don't know. We don't know what was asked on the lie detector test. But it could very well be that this is a family member, like I shared with you guys at the beginning of this, that, it's worth considering some other theories that this could be a family member that is, related to Katie, that was maybe interacting with him. And he would have been vulnerable to interact with somebody, in my opinion. It could have also been a stranger that was, posing as someone that he knew or something like that. But he would have been vulnerable in light of everything that we've heard that was going on in that house. Yes, I agree. I follow every move in this case from Norway. Yeah, this case has gone international now. Welcome to America. He's standing in the shade. Yeah, so that could make your hair look darker, right? If you're in the shade, the lens on the camera. And a lot of people talked about the trees in the background, that it couldn't be real from the trees. But we've seen photos now that is what the foliage looks like. People went up and took pictures of the foliage. That is what it looked like that week. Because foliage comes in different elevations, and this is a mountainous area at different times of the year. Joanne says, it breaks my heart. He's been trying to get help for himself by telling teachers. Yeah, I agree. And the CPS let him down. Yep. If that's true, they sure did. Patty says, I think they dyed his hair. I also think Chris Proudfoot, Katie Proudfoot, and her family are involved. I don't know I just think that it could be a relative of Katie. And if she was estranged from them, she may not have been aware. But if they were reaching out to him, did he decide he was going to go? And would he have tried to go to North Carolina to connect with somebody there in North Carolina? Karen says, did Seth say he knew who the woman was in the picture? No, he didn't. He said it was not his sister. It's not his mother. And it's not the woman that's why I cropped her out. It's not the woman at the, that was searching for him. Those are all different people. And I just think it could have just been somebody passing by. Thank you so much, Claudia. Claudia says, love Reporter Room. Thank you so much. Much love from Toronto, Canada. Thanks, Jessica, for all you do. Thank you so much for the super chat, Claudia. I'm putting that toward a new computer. For those of you that don't know, I blow through them very quickly because of all the editing and live streaming I do on them. So they last me about a year and a half. So I am like due for one. So I'm about to get one. So this is going right back into the channel. Thank you so much. Lori says, Karen, he said he does not know the woman in the picture. Right. Seth does not know the woman in the picture. So thank you so much, Leslie, for the super sticker. I really appreciate your kindness and your generosity. Thank you so much, you guys. Carrie says the nasty Proudfoots haven't been charged, but hey, also haven't been cleared either. I don't know. You can be. This is our head mod if you don't know. This is NJS. Thank you so much to all of our mods for today. And you guys are being so nice. We have such a nice chat. So I just want to say that all these things could be true simultaneously and them not have anything to do with Chris Proudfoot could be an awful person. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. Katie Proudfoot could be, know something more. There could be guilt just in relation to what was said on the phone that night. This is why I titled this The Choice. Was she being asked to make a choice? Did he hear her being asked to make a choice? Did Sebastian overhear this? Is this why he went out the door? I don't know what it would have felt like to Sebastian. And tell me what you think about this. What it would have felt like to Sebastian to feel like this choice was being made and he was going to go live with his dad and not wanting to change schools because that may have been the place where he felt the most safe, the most secure. And also there would be a big change in his routine. He was going to have to go to school on the computer at his dad's house. So this would have isolated him even further. So he may have, not wanted to go there. And we've heard from Chris Proudfoot that, that Sebastian did not want to go to Seth's. And this is, not anything against Seth or anything like that. It's just, maybe how he felt. So was Katie being asked to make a choice? Is this what role did that play into his disappearance? And what role did that play into him potentially ending up in North Carolina? Yeah, we're keeping it classy in the chat. Just think about what words you use. Jamie says law enforcement will not file for indictment unless there's an ample evidence to secure the indictment. Jamie says, I was essayed a child. It can't be an excuse. I'm not saying it's an excuse. I just want to make that really clear. I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying let's just try to understand the dynamics of what may be playing out. Lots of people go through this and they don't end up in this type of situation, but we have talked about coercive control. We have been talking about narcissism. We've seen actions and behaviors, in my opinion, from Chris Proudfoot toward women, especially women content creators and women on Facebook, where, he just seems to really get in there and go for it. Makes me wonder what went on in his childhood. And I'm not saying it makes it right for him to do that. It certainly doesn't. I'm just saying, let's try to look at this from a different angle. Sharon says, could they have wanted back in the house? My guess is they were told no. I'm not sure who they is. Mandy says, he's been kidnapped by catfish. Ask the psychics. I don't know. Elmer says they want to search the Proudfoot house again and the family-owned properties. Chris Proudfoot is not allowing it. The house has been searched multiple times, including heat-seeking devices. So the only thing that, probably would be a good thing is maybe go through and just, give the house a good luminol just to rule it out. I'm not saying they'll find anything. Hey, Roberta. Can you please read what the PI said about Katie? I think I did. I'm just hoping I think I did kind of go through that. But I just hope that this can, and maybe, in going through this, Lori says it sure does. Jamie says, thank you all very much. I proved I wasn't weak like she thought. I'm glad, Jamie. I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you're strong. Hey, Michael. Hey, Souls. I'm not sure if anyone could take him out in public. Well, I think this is such an obscure location that I do think it's possible that he was taken out in public and then just not realize the location. So I do want to talk a little bit about some other, let me take this down. This is not the only missing person in the area. So authorities were there. This is like a Raise an Awareness Day for people in Tennessee. And it talks about Summer Wells went missing from her home in Hawkins County on June 15th of 2021. Local law enforcement and TVI led the massive search for her. There's still no sign of her. She would have been 8 years old. She turned 8 years old in February of this year. And we have Layla, what a pretty name, Santanello, and she was last seen in Kingsport on June 23rd of 2023. June 27th of 2023, excuse me. Officers and agents have conducted 6 ground searches using drones, infrared technology, and canine units. More than 20 subpoenas have been issued in the search for Layla. They arrested Layla's boyfriend, Michael Thompson, in March for allegedly posing as a missing person and sending Cash App requests to her friends and family after she disappeared. That's just diabolical. To me, that would put that guy at the top of my list. And then the other one that law enforcement is asking to call attention to is Holly Lynn Snap. She was reported missing several months after Layla, the 19-year-old, was last seen in October in Bell Ridge Drive area of Kingsport. The teen's family hasn't heard from her in 10 days before reporting her missing. I don't know why they waited 10 days to report her missing, but they reported her missing October 15th of 2023. Her family told police that Holly Lynn's mentality functions significantly lower than her actual age. She may be physically 19, but she behaves more like a 9 or a 10-year-old. And then, of course, Sebastian, who's been missing for 2 months now, according to Katie and Chris. Proudfoot, the autistic teen, is believed to have walked off in the middle of the night, leaving his medication at home. They discovered he was missing on the morning of February 26th of 2024. Sumner County authorities and the TBI have said that there's no viable leads. Volunteers have been joining in the search, expanding beyond the initial 5-mile radius covered by law enforcement. I think that radius is what Steve Fisher, the private investigator, is saying that he does need to go back in. And her father recently hired private investigators and called for the FBI to take over and investigate Sebastian's disappearance as a criminal matter. And I do wonder if that's what's going on and if this is why the private investigator is stepping back. She talked about warrants. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me grab this. So I do think the shoes are very similar to the type of shoes that he liked to wear. Not exactly the same, but we know he left the house without his shoes. So would he have picked out, if he had been kidnapped, shoes that were similar? If it was, somebody who was tending and befriending him? I think it's definitely worth considering. I do think the hair, there's like a little bit of a cowlick up here on his head, and I think they're very similar. I think the glasses are similar shape. So if it's not him, it sure does look like him. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Oh, green hearts for Sebastian. That's so nice. Soul Jewel says, many prayers for the missing. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are missing. So I just wanted to call attention to a couple of other cases. And also, I did a lot of videos on the Summer Wells case. For those of you who've been with this channel from the beginning, I really, really wanted to find her. Still do. And if anything new comes up, I will continue to cover her case. I haven't been doing videos on it because that mostly feels like it's consisting of doing videos about the parents, which doesn't really help find her ultimately. Rutro Shaggy, what a cute name, says, has anyone seen Sebastian's dogs yet? Have they gone missing also? I'm assuming they're in the camper with Katie and Chris Proudfoot. Hey, Kathy. Hi, Leo. Michael, thank you so much, says this room is the best. Andy says, I think her boyfriend knows what happened to Layla. Yeah, I'm wondering that too. That's really shady, right? That the boyfriend was trying to get cash apps from the parents. Very, very shady. So can you see the grandfather face in Grandfather Mountain? So this is the spokesperson now. This is Tony Mathias. He's going to be taking over as spokesperson. They're trying to dial it down a little bit. And Seth Rogers hired him I don't know if he's using the GoFundMe money or not. I want to grab that other picture. As if I think this is the best lead that we have in the case, in my opinion, is this picture of Sebastian. I think that is the best lead. Soul Jules says, thank you, Reporter Room, for bringing so much awareness to all the missing. It's so sad. I couldn't imagine even going through something so horrible. Yeah, I can't imagine. Mel says, Chris said Sebastian stopped taking his meds 20 days before he went missing. Really? I have not heard that. That's very interesting. I wonder why. Thanks, Leslie. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up and help me out with the algorithm. And join the Reporter Room family. Join our family. Come and subscribe. Be a channel member. CC True Crime says there's no way you would take one picture and then not even ask if he's Sebastian. Well, because your dad and family are looking for you, it might not be realistic or believable. That may be true. But it also could be that they didn't want to approach him. Yeah, I haven't heard that about the beds either. I'm going to have to see if what the sourcing is on that and try to follow up with that. Annie says, I pray Sebastian is in North Carolina. I do too. I think this is the best lead that we have for Sebastian. I really want this to be true. I really do. Cece says he would be home now. It seems like if it's him and it's nobody seems to be able to get the metadata to prove the date, so it's not a recent picture. I think if that were true, my pushback on that is that if that was true, I think law enforcement would have just come out and debunked it. They haven't done that. And it's been a week and a half. And the fact that Seth went down there and they were pulling video footage, I think they are trying to run it down because I think they're looking at the metadata and they think this, is legitimate. That was my feeling about it too. If it's not him, it's his twin. Because if you look at the nose and the glasses and the stance and the hair and the cowlick and even the type of shoes that he's wearing that he would like, and dyeing somebody's hair, I could see somebody doing that. Consider the Elizabeth Smart case, right? Do you remember her case? She was taken and she could hear searchers calling her. She could hear them calling and looking for her. Let me just grab this really quick. Let me just share this with you guys because I think this is interesting. So I'm not going to go through the whole timeline, but she could actually hear searchers calling for her name. She was disappeared out of her own bedroom. And it was by someone that her dad had hired to do handiwork around the house. I'm not going to say exactly what happened to him, but she was brought into town. And they concealed her face with a veil. And, Stockholm syndrome, she stayed with them. She didn't run away. And they, brought her into town. She survived. So stuff like this does happen. Her sister, Mary Catherine, was in the bedroom when this happened. So she was taken out of her own house. So I do think it's just worth considering that this could be him. So how they found her, was that she was discovered with along with two of her captors. This was on March 12th of 2003, walking down the street in Sandy, Utah. So they were out in public a few miles from Salt Lake City, and she was taken into police custody where she was reunited with her family, but she wasn't calling out for help. She, Stockholm syndrome is a real thing. So I do think that that's, just something interesting to consider when we're, considering this case. I just do think it has value. Phil says it was said he wears a brace. Deb says, if this is Sebastian, and I hope it is, all those involved even have knowledge of this, are in big trouble. It's a huge crime. I agree with you. Sierra says, one 398 likes and almost 600 watching. Let's get, oh yeah, give me a thumbs up, guys. And please subscribe. If you haven't already, come join our Reporter Room family. We have the nicest group of people. If you want to become part of a really nice true crime family, this is your true crime family right here. Oh, green hearts for Sebastian. Thank you, Annie. Wes says, thank you for keeping this drama free. You are the best. Oh, no, you guys are. Calgal says, I'm praying that the photo is Sebastian and he can be found safe. Green Eyes, hey Green Eyes, said, if I saw a recent picture and Roadhouse video, I might be able to say. Yeah, I think initially we got younger pictures released. I'm not sure why. And then we got older ones released also. Sharon says, poor Summer, how did law enforcement drop the ball? So sad. I don't know. The only thing I can think about on that case that just really does bother me is the fact that Ronnie Lawson, who was the sheriff at the time, and they, had the lead, his son was convicted of SA and got less than a year. He got a sweetheart deal. And I'm just wondering, if this case didn't get the attention that it should have gotten at the time that it should have gotten. I'm not saying it did or didn't, but due to what was going on in his own life. And I'm not blaming the father for what the son did, but I just feel like that would have been a big distraction. What do you guys think? Mama Bear says, imagine being innocent and seeing all of the accusations. I would hide away too. Yeah, and we don't know what kind of shaming she's been through in her life too. Let's talk about that, because I do think that that's something that I think that and shaming. Let's talk about that, because this is something that you guys are going to be able to maybe relate to, and maybe we can help somebody else. So let me just grab this really quick. Great point, Mama. Thanks for bringing that up. Let me take this down and pull this up instead. Okay, so I just, in the Elizabeth Smart case, we can see there was some kind of Stockholm syndrome trauma bonding going on there, right? So this is the ties that bind to a narcissist. And you guys might have signed in, been part of this yourself. Oh, I have to sign in to read it. Oh no, let me grab another one. Hang on one second. My bad. Let me just grab, there's another one that's probably better anyway. Yeah, this is Psychology Today. I think this is a better one. All right, so let me grab this one. So this talks about codependency. You guys see that okay? All right. So the trauma bonding is very similar to Stockholm syndrome, right? And we know from the Elizabeth Smart case, she was being brought out in public also by her captors and never said anything, never called out. She could hear searchers calling out her name and she never answered. So trauma bonding is similar to Stockholm syndrome, in which people held captive come to have feelings of trust or even affection for the very people who captured them and held them against their will. And I believe this was a way in our human evolution for people to survive, right? If you were kidnapped by another tribe, back, in the early days of humanity, or you would have to be able to relate. So people to survive and adapt would have to be able to relate and bond with their captor. So this type of survival strategy can also occur in relationships. It's called trauma bonding, and it can occur when a person is in a relationship with a narcissistic person. So this may be something that you've gone through yourself in your own life. So what I'm hoping is by talking about this, that not only can we look at Katie a little bit differently and think about what was that cycle and how this would have gone from Katie's mom, who's a registered SO allegedly, to Katie, and then ultimately to Sebastian. That the cycle, right? We know it's a cycle. So with a trauma bond, the narcissistic partner who often has codependency issues, and we saw this with her, like people wondering, like, why isn't she answering for herself? Why isn't she talking for herself? And it may be that she is codependent. First, it feels like you're being loved and cared for, but this starts to break down and erode over time the emotional, mental, and sometimes DV can take over the relationship. So if somebody is codependent with a narcissistic person, they may understand that something's going on, but they don't understand why it's happening. And not only does it feel normal, it's not setting off any red flags, because this is something that, you know, that she may have grown up with in her own mother's life, right? We don't know what happened to Katie, but it may be that she's now reliving this in her relationships with adults. And this is why I titled this The Choice, because I'm wondering, after listening to the interview with Nina Gomez, if Katie wasn't being asked to make a choice between Sebastian and Chris. So the codependent person may understand the change, but not why it's happening. They believe they just need to understand what they're doing wrong in order to bring back that loving part of the relationship. So in order to feel like they're in control, they'll assume the responsibility for it. And if they do manage to break free, then all the narcissist has to do is go back to that courtship phase, the honeymoon phase, right? The calm phase, the reconciliation phase. Then the more the codependent reaches out to the narcissist for love, for recognition, for approval, and you may have had somebody like this in your own life, the more the trauma bond becomes strengthened. And so this can mean that the codependent will stay in the relationship even when DV escalates, creating this destructive cycle. So how do you get free? How do you get free? I think it is really helpful. This, my source on this is Psychology Today. It is really helpful as a form of psychotherapy and life coaching. I think you need to learn how to spot the red flags. Separating from the narcissist is critical. You have to end that. There's no way to like heal yourself and be in that relationship with the person. Acknowledging one's own choices, because I'm just wondering, and just going through the documents of what she's alleging occurred in her relationship with Seth, if Katie's picker is off, right? She's picking people that feel familiar to her based on what happened in her own childhood. Acknowledging one's own choice. So you may have had this too, where you've had like several relationships with people who are narcissistic, and you're like, why is everybody narcissistic? No, we don't know, and we don't always know. Our picker is off. When we're picking people, this feels familiar. So not only does this not set off a red flag, not only do their behaviors not deter us, but we're actually attracted to people that are like that. We're actually drawn to people that are like that. So acknowledging one's own choice, exploring the relationship through coaching or therapy, and looking at the gaslighting, the criticism, the control, and the addictive aspects of the relationship can really help heal and stop that cycle. I mean, and then developing a healthy support network, and I just do wonder if Katie was, did Sebastian's grandmother reach out to him, or some other relative reach out to him while she was, being asked to make this horrible choice. Developing a support network, just as the codependent is working to get away and become emotionally free from trauma bonding, the narcissist is working to bring that codependent back under their control. And I think if we've noticed anything, in my opinion, in the behaviors with Chris Proudfoot, when he's gone onto YouTube channels, particularly female content creators, he didn't do it to Nancy Grace though, but he did it to Trisha on Web Sleuths. He did it to Emma on Crime Stories Obsessed. And he did it to a woman on Facebook. Trying to control and degrade and manipulate and demand. So becoming emotionally free from trauma bonding, the narcissist is going to try to loop you back in with love bombing. And you can still have a relationship with narcissistic people. You just need to be aware that, make sure you get yourself healthy first though, before you do that. So Let me know what you think about that. I love the green hearts for Sebastian Elizabeth. Thank you, Enjaz. This is our head mod, Enjaz, if you guys don't know. I do want to, I'm not ending this, but I just do want to say just a massive thank you to our producers, George Brown. Hold on. Let me do this over. You guys, I'm sorry. I do this every time. Let me just do that again. I'm sorry. I'm not ending this. I just do want to say thank you to George Brown, Enjaz for Amber, Energy Shots, Angry Mons, and Not So Saintly, and our channel members, because they keep the channel going. You guys are so awesome. If you have just become a channel member, your name, I update the list weekly. If it's been more than a week and you don't see your name on there, please message me. Just drop me a comment under the membership video so I can see your comment and let me know. So I do think that we need to consider expanding the search out. Not just the 1 square mile, but working outward and actually doing a grid search in the area while we're still looking for Sebastian. And I do feel concerned that we have like people with the dog searchers are talking about not wanting to search for him, because I do feel like we need to keep searching. I also want to say thank you for your super thanks PayPal gratitude. Thank you so much. Green Eye Sparkle and Vicky Smith, I just want to thank you both. Both came in yesterday and gifted channel memberships. Okay, so I do think that this grid search is really important. I do think that this is something that needs to be done. And then, and by grid search, it's just searchers like literally walking in a line together. It's time consuming, but doing a 1 mile and then working their way out in the event that this does not turn out to be Sebastian. Let me know what you think. Let me check in with chat. Sherry says another reason they don't tell or leave is because they're ashamed they got themselves in this position. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story. Yeah, there's a lot of shame involved in this. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be, but there is. There's a lot of shame and shaming that's going on too. That's one of the ways, that's one of the coercive control methods that a narcissist uses, is to shame you through ridicule, or I'm just teasing you. But the teasing doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel right and you don't like it, you have the right to just say, I don't like this. And that's enough. I'm uncomfortable with, you're making me uncomfortable. And that's enough for you to say. Scottish Girl, hey, says, why hasn't Sebastian's private investigator stood back? Why has Sebastian's private investigator stood back and now has a promo guy who's a car salesman? I don't get any of this that's going on. I'm so completely bamboozled with this whole case and why law enforcement hasn't. Well, law enforcement to me is working the case. So they don't have to tell us what they're doing. They're not going to tell us what they're doing, especially if they do believe somebody has him. So I'm wondering if he has 2 private investigators, and it does kind of, I know a lot of people do feel like Seth may have let Heather go, Justice Warriors, Heather and Tracy go, and just kept Chloe on, and then replaced Heather with a spokesperson. And it may be that, he knows more about what's going on with this photograph than we know. I mean, look at what Justice Warriors, this is what Heather said. As a private investigator, we can do a lot to help the case along, but we do not have the ability to get warrants. Well, what do you need warrants for? You would need warrants if you were looking into somebody who did this. You would need warrants if you were looking into someone who was doing this. So great comment. Yeah, the mountain got its name. I just think it's such just a little piece of trivia. But if you look at this face, for those of you that just joined and joined late, this is Grandfather Mountain. If you look at the mountain, you can see the face of the mountain. You can see the nose and the lips, and then there's a beard. And that's how the mountain got the name of Grandfather Mountain. I just think it looks like a beautiful area, very lush and pretty. So I think Heather's statement from Justice Warriors is very, very telling. So this is Tony Matheson. And a lot of people are questioning, why are they bringing this guy on? I think they're trying to bring unity in. I think there's been a lot of vitriol and a lot of backbiting on both sides from Seth towards Katie and Chris, and from Katie and Chris towards Seth. And I think Seth is trying to tone it down a little. And by bringing in Tony and maybe not answering every question that Seth is being asked on social media can be a chance to kind of tone it down. But I don't know what his background is. People do change careers. I just want to say he's an older guy. He's not like a 20-year-old. He's an older guy. People do change careers. So he, may have some kind of credentials that we don't know about, or he may not. This may be a new venture for him. And maybe he's able to work for less money because he is, a newer spokesperson. But people do change careers, more so now in today's age. Gray Knight says that video of Sebastian dancing at the football game, his hair was blonde. Yeah, it's very blonde, but it doesn't mean it wasn't dyed. Thanks for the green hearts, Elmer. Elizabeth says, I hope they do not let Sebastian go back to them. I hope they listen to him of where he wants to go and what he wants to do. Cece says, why would Katie Proudfoot continue on and on if that were the case? I don't know. It's just so sad in every way. Poor Sebastian. If he's alive, I hope he goes to Seth. Soul Jewel says, I don't know. I feel like something more has happened to Sebastian. I think Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot know, just like the Wells case. Too many weird things are coming out. It's all so weird. I don't know. I just think we should be really careful to just consider that, there may have, this is just my theory. Tell me what you think. My theory on this is that Chris Proudfoot was withholding. He was withholding himself, maybe withholding financially, withholding emotional support. And Katie was on the phone. There was something that went on during that 3 hours. This is our other head mod, Six Sense Amelia. She's on New Zealand time. So I do think that there was something going on in the house that night with the phone call. I don't know if the phone call occurred because there was something going on, or if something happened because of what was being said in the phone call. I do think it's interesting that Sebastian was supposed to go live with Seth in light of what we know about the school, right? His school, and how important that seems. Like that's who he confided in when he was hoping that Chris Proudfoot would be removed from the house. It could have been that he heard Chris Proudfoot was coming back to the house. He could have, we don't know what he heard that night in that 3-hour phone call. But in my opinion, he could have gotten upset. There could have been like something where Katie feels guilty, but maybe she didn't actually do something to him and he just ran out of the house. Chris Proudfoot said he stepped off the front porch. And to me, the descriptions almost seem like somebody saw him. But I don't know. That's just my theory. And maybe she just thought, let him take his lumps. But what we don't know is, was there somebody online in her extended family, possibly, because she does have extended family in North Carolina where this photo was. Was there somebody online talking to him, luring him? We know her mother's a registered SO. Gained his trust. And I showed you guys the certificate that he completed online. So he was online. So I think it's just worth considering that theory, and that somebody picked him up or lured him out of the house that night and has him. Think about Elizabeth Smart. She was out in public also and wasn't calling out. She could hear searchers calling her name. She didn't answer. Stockholm Syndrome. Arlene says, I think the picture is real, which is why the FBI is holding everything close to the vest. Thanks so much. Mike thinks Summer's dad is creepy. Mike says, Seth can't recognize his own child's glasses or pics of him. I think he says it. Seth thinks it is him. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think he can recognize him. Yeah, I think he can. Dawson's son. Yeah, I agree. Sherry says, my manager at the time asked me if I knew I had low self-esteem, and I just said, yeah, can I go back to work now? Wow, that's heartbreaking, especially when the manager is trying to just let you know. Maybe was this like a narcissistic person, or was this someone trying to help you, Sherry? I'm just curious, because that could be taken two different ways, just depending on how they were saying it. Pam says Ronnie lost about Sheriff Ronnie Lawson and his son, and that he continues to hold his position really bothers me. Just being there for his son, in my opinion, is a conflict of interest. I agree, Pam. And I think this may have played a role in why that case went. I won't say it went cold, but it does feel like it's gotten cold. Soul says, you would think that law enforcement would have looked through all of the cell phones. We have such updated technology now. Yeah, great point. Green Eye says hair can be dyed also, but it looks too dark. It could be dyed. It could be just the way the picture was taken. Could be a filter that was on. The hair does look dark, I agree, but the cow looks the same to me. Could also just be dirt if he did walk, if he did somehow make it hitchhiking or whatever to North Carolina. Sherry wasn't telling anyone anything. Oh, I knew you meant Ronnie. I knew. Cece says, well, it's hard to believe law enforcement did anything at the start of this case, and I don't know what Katie is going through, but it doesn't change the fact that she was the last person with Sebastian and knows what happened. Prying Paula says, Seth has said he believes it's Sebastian. Scottish Girl said, is this pic real? Would you take Sebastian out? Well, I looked at the picture, and I pulled it up on my computer before I sent it over to TBI, because I'm not going to send something that I don't think is real. I looked at the picture and enhanced it, and I spent about 20-25 minutes looking at the picture, and I was like, I don't see anything, and I sent it immediately emailed to TBI. And then the next thing I did was I was looking at the picture up close and just going through everything and just trying to see, did I think this, before I was going to put this into a video, I just wanted to see, did I think this really was him? And just the more I looked at it, the more I felt like it was. So to me, if this isn't him, I think he does have a doppelganger. Hey, Marina, good to see you. I mean, look at this. Look at his stance, the way his wrist is, his stance. The only thing that's different, in my opinion, is the hair color. But even the little cowlick part in the front, I don't know. But his hair looks darker here in this photo too. I can see some lighter on the end, but the roots look darker. But the shoes look like something he would have picked out, in my opinion. So I don't know what you guys think about that. Let me go back down. Mike says, I know the dump thing. Thank you so much to all our mods. You guys are just great. Leslie says, hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much, Leslie. Lolo says, that's why my mind keeps going back to Katie Proudfoot was the last person who was with Sebastian. Yeah. And this is why law enforcement would have ruled her out first. Yeah, this is my understanding too. So for those of you that don't know, Katie's mother is allegedly a registered SO. And she was put into care. So this, in my opinion, we don't know what happened to her in that house. We don't know what happened to Katie, but this is why I wanted to talk about trauma bonding and narcissism, and just a way to look at what may have been going on in that household leading up to Sebastian's disappearance. In my opinion, this would have made him a very easy target for someone nefarious. And it could be someone, the fact that she does have extended family in North Carolina, could be somebody that, he may have seen pictures of, this is my mom, da-da-da. Could have been somebody posing as a family member too. Thank you so much, Amelia. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up and join the Reporter Room family. Consider subscribing. We'd love to have you. Elmer Enjas says this whole case is very upsetting. It is. It's very, very sad. And what I'm hoping, though, here's the hope part, is that if this is Sebastian, this is proof of life. This is proof of life. This is what we were hoping for. This, to me, this is the best case scenario if this is him. Elmer says the marriage was falling apart. Casey, yeah, the choice. That's why I titled this The Choice. I do think she was being asked to make a choice. I don't know if she made a choice, but I do think she was being asked to make a choice. Mama says, in that very first interview, Katie saying Chris Proudfoot told her to put the dogs away for the night, and Chris Proudfoot told her to go to bed. Red flags. Yeah. Coercive control, codependency. Yeah, exactly. Elizabeth says, everyone knows the secret help me hand signal. Oh my gosh. I think it's this, right? Am I right? Let me see if I could, let me look that up. That is such a great one to get out there. Hang on. Let me get it. Okay. Let me grab it. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Okay, let me just change to this one. I'm sharing. Let me share this one. Okay, so here's the hand signal. So the palm, you go to the camera, thumb, trap the thumb. This is your signal. If you see someone, doing this, they're asking for help. They're asking for help. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think we've had a really good live stream. I'm going to be doing the another case as well. I think I'm going to let me know if you would like me to do Caleb Harris. If you would like to see videos on that, I am still following the Riley Strain case. I did look for updates. If there had been some, I would have done a video on that. I haven't seen any updates as far as the Riley Strain case, but if there's anything new, when there is new, because we're waiting for those toxicology, I will get back. And then Mika Miller. Let me just show you who this is. I think I'm going to do this case next. So I might do this one. I have a bunch of stuff pulled on this, because I do think that this is definitely something worth talking about. It's definitely worth a conversation. For those of you who don't know who she is, this happened in North Carolina. She was a pastor's wife, but she was leaving him and passed under very suspicious circumstances. A lot of red flags around John Paul, or JP, as he's known, Miller. So let me know if you'd like to see me cover that case and the Caleb Harris case. I will be glad to dive into those. And on that note, if you haven't already, please subscribe, join the Reporter Room family. It's free. And we have a really great group, and consider joining me on Facebook. I post a lot of information in there. And again, it's a really nice group. We have a channel members only side chat. We have a Sebastian Rogers only side chat for those of you that just want to follow that case. So yeah, come on and join the family. We would love to have you as part of Reporter Room. So I will see you guys on the next video, and let me know if you would like me to cover the Caleb Harris case as well.